And we should be live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Please say you can hear me, and please tell me I'm not doing exactly the same as I did last week and doing the whole introduction to nobody other than the other three people surrounding me. One down there, and one over there. Good evening, everyone. I will pass you straight over to the lovely Mr. Baldy / Conspiracy Catz, and he will run you through the evening's events.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait for this one. Am I muted now? No, I'm not muted. I can't wait for this one. So tonight we're going to be debating the idea of, should psychics and mediums be allowed to charge for the services? Should that be legal? And we've got two people who, after reading about both of your kind of like backgrounds and experiences, I really can't wait for this. That's all I can say. I'm genuinely looking forward to this. The format of the debate, just to remind everybody again, you'll each be given the chance to have a short 10-minute introduction. I believe you're going first, Luke. I think you
please.
And then after the 10-minute introduction, you'll have a time for a 10-minute rebuttal, and then we're into the back and forth. And again, we all know that this is a channel that's very different to other debate channels. We let each other finish, etc. I don't know why I'm just waffling on now. Let's introduce the contestants because I'm really looking forward to this. So, I'm going to struggle to pronounce that. Can you pronounce that for me? Then
you can just call me Ken.
Ken. do you want to introduce yourself? Just say hi and tell people about you.
Oh, well, hello everybody. I'm the small, medium, and large, and you can call me Ken. And I do have a YouTube channel. It's called Hellbound Heathen. I actually came across your channel because I do a lot of conspiracies. I do a lot of debunking. But I focus my attention on the misconceptions about witchcraft, the occult, Satanism, all those various things. So if anyone is interested in that, please check out my channel.
I think if you just send me a link to that on Twitter.
I'm doing it now, Kat. I'm doing it now.
Brilliant.
I know I always appear as if I'm sat here doing nothing, but believe it or not, I'm not. I'm actually getting Ken's channel up now. And I am just about to share the link in the side chat.
Well, thanks. Now, Luke is a name I can pronounce, so, big, excellent stuff. Luke, do you just want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you very much. Hello. So I'm the one who asked for the debate. I put this one forward. So my name is Luke Mitchell, not to be confused with Psychic Mitch, featured on Conspiracy Channel about a year ago. But thanks to Creaky for having me on. So I'm an RF engineer working in the satellite industry, although I have 3 papers published in molecular biology and entomology. I'm a close-hand magician at a lower level, which I've been doing for absolutely years. And so I have a broad understanding of physics and science and psychics and pseudoscience. I started publicly performing a version of a psychic reading in my late teens. At the time, I described it as psychology meets intuition. But many people thought it was real psychic power because, quote, there's no way I could have known that. And it's something I heard a lot. Now, I'm not a YouTuber or a debater. It's my first debate, in fact. I'm just very interested in facts, in science, and society in general. So I watch a lot of debates, which helps me broaden my mind and test my beliefs. Now, I think magic is awesome in all of its guises. Pretending you have magic powers for entertainment, I think, is fine. I used it when I was young to gain confidence. But there's always a kind of an unwritten rule that between the performer and the audience, it's like when you go and see a play. You know the guy on stage isn't really Hamlet. And it's a willing suspension of disbelief. So I'm not arguing against any of that today, but the people who say they can specifically do it for real and charge for it. I don't have a patron or need subscribers. I'm just here because I like open discussion on these topics. I think it's really important. And I just want to encourage everybody to think a little bit skeptically, test your beliefs. There's no shame in changing your mind. And I'm really happy to have mine changed if relevant facts are presented to me today. And that's me. Thanks, Cat Blinder.
Brilliant. So, yeah, this is what I'm definitely looking forward to even. Ricky, have you got anything you want to say before we rock and roll?
Yeah, right, Kat, are we going to do a poll this week, or are we not doing that? Because I forgot last week. But what I'm just about to do is I'm just about to share a community post, and I will provide you with a link so that everybody who wants to ask either Luke or Ken a question at the appropriate time know exactly where to put the question. So all the questions we ask, the guys, will be submitted under this first community post. So if you ask a question underneath any of the other community posts during the live stream, they will probably be ignored and looked at later on. Obviously, super chats will take priority. So we'll ask the super chatted questions first, and then we will ask the community poll questions straight after that.
Now, past couple of weeks I've been pretty poor at timing the first round, so I've got a little stop clock on the screen now, and I'm going to have to be ruthless with it, I'm afraid. So, and this could apply to either of you, so if I just say stop, even in the middle of the sentence, your 10 minutes are up, and then I'm being equally as fair as possible. Luke, you said you wanted to go first with your presentation, so you have 10 minutes before Ken has a... I feel bad calling you Ken because I can't pronounce it.
That's okay.
But I'll get
That's
there.
all right.
Right. So, Luke, your 10 minutes... Are you ready, by the way?
I am ready, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, your 10 minutes starts now.
So, thank you very much. This is my syllogism. Premise 1, all known psychics are fake. Premise 2, they cause serious harm to society. My conclusion, psychics need to be restricted through laws. So, premise 1 then, all known psychics are fake. In all physics, biology, in fact, everything we know in science and have tested about the natural world shows that psychic phenomena is just not possible. Or we'd call it physics phenomena. However, there are lots of people who claim to be psychics and under a broad range of abilities. So, to define my terms, what I mean by a psychic, someone with extra abilities outside the known laws of nature that can be demonstrated within natural environments. So, are all psychics fake? Well, there are a number of supposedly scientific studies out there, the most important being the 20-year study from Stanford Research Institute, SRI, and the CIA. Now, this has been widely discredited. Despite many attempts, no other agency was able to recreate their results. Further to that, major flaws were noted in their methodologies, and their conclusions didn't actually match the data they had. So I would say that their science was so bad, in fact, that every single one of you watching could go and find at least one flaw in their methodology, regardless of how much science training you had. Now, the papers have been declassified, and it's a really interesting read, so I urge you to go and have a look at it, and I'll probably allude to it through the next hour or so. But how do we prove psychics are fake? Well, the first way is you test them. And no psychic ever tested under acceptable scientific conditions has ever shown any ability ever. Now, the supernatural, by definition, can't be tested using science. It is beyond science. However, the ability to affect the natural world can. So, as an example, if I said I can move a cup with my mind, that's telekinesis, Kyle, you couldn't test how I did it. It's beyond physics. But you could test that I did it. If you measure that the fact that the cup has actually moved and that I was the cause. And to do that, you remove all known independent variables, and Nathan Oakland taught me everything I know about that, and therefore removing the possibility of strings, wires, magnets, wind, whatever else could move the cup, then get me to do it on command at random intervals to show that I am the cause. Now, the most famous debunker is probably the amazing Ranji, who for decades offered up a $1 million prize for any real psychic. Now, compared to how many psychics there are, very few came forward, but those tested fully agreed with the test conditions beforehand and still failed the tests. So the other way to check if a psychic is fake is to check for known tricks or other causes. Now, for those who refuse to be tested or not in test conditions, you can examine their claims to see if they're using a known trick method. For most psychics who claim to communicate with the dead, normally their methods will be cold reading, which is using psychology and facial expression, hot reading, which is just prior research, and a mixture of Barnum statements, rainbow ruses, psychology, and all this combined. But going into this, ask yourself, what is more likely? They can speak to the dead, or they Googled you? Now, premise 2, psychics cause serious harm to society. And this is where I see most of the feedback. Let's be honest, nobody bending spoons or acting as the human magnet is really affecting anyone's life. It's those that tell fortunes or speak to the dead that really get involved with the public. So that's where the harm really is. But that's not to say that all psychics aren't harmful. While I appreciate that many people feel that they've gained something positive from a psychic reading, did they really? So this is how a general reading will go, and I've been to lots. First of all, there'll be some theatrics using crystal balls and auras and chakras and crossing over, all this kind of stuff. Then there'll be some fishing for the cold readers or a minor reveal for the hot readers. So they'll say something like, I see an old lady. Now, if you're fishing as a cold reader and it has no reaction, it's like, yeah, they might be living, but and they'll move on in this way. If they're hot reading and they know your grandmother has passed, well, you go to an emotional response then. And now you're forgetting your logical side and your brain is in an emotional state. So it's easier for them to manipulate you. The rest of the reading almost is just a series of hits or misses. And all of these are provers that they're talking to someone connected to. Oh, yes, the old lady had, problem with their back and the left leg had an issue. And they had this little handbag and a really yappy little dog. It's like, you know all this. Why are you paying someone to tell you that you know? The very, very small bit at the end is the pointless message that says, yes, they're here. That's all you really get out of a reading. Now, honestly, did anyone ever get a really useful message? Now, I do know from first-hand experience after 15 years in the military and through my personal life what it is like to lose friends and loved ones, including a child. I understand, I sympathize, I really do. People are looking to connect. They're looking to say goodbye. They're looking for help moving on, and I have done. But platitudes won't really help, not deep down. It might paper over a crack for a short while, but there will always be a void. And it doesn't teach a person how to better manage bereavement. Now, there are services out there, counsellors, who can really give meaningful help. Their voices are being drowned out by scammers who have a bigger marketing budget. It is a real problem, especially to those that suffer getting the wrong help or, worse still, bad medical advice. Now, my main issue, as Conspiracy Blinder will tell you, more and more people are ignoring proven facts for the sake of their own beliefs. Society has been told for generations by psychics, snake oil salesmen, and woo peddlers that it's okay not to have a reason to believe something. You just can, despite the facts. That's why Flat Earth is so big. That's why Trump is my president. Measles is on the rise, and I'm still in lockdown because half of Virginia think COVID is a hoax. Psychics have helped damage our epistemology to a point where, as of today, 133,000 people in the US are dead because it's okay for the president just to believe what he wants. Not to mention the huge financial loss suffered by millions of these fraudsters. Now, there are so many cases, but the biggest I would say was a medium called Maria Duval, who made millions in Europe and Russia in the 70s and 80s. And then in the 90s, she sold the rights to her name to scammers who raked in an estimated $200 million in the US alone. They did it by targeting the elderly and the sick with mailing campaigns. Now, most of their victims either didn't know they had been conned or were too embarrassed to report her. And they all said they had a nice experience. But that scam wasn't shut down until 2016, 26 years later. Now, I ask, how does their scam differ from any psychic charging for their services online or through the mail right now? To my conclusion, they need to be restricted through laws. Now, there are, of course, laws in place against mail fraud in the Duval case, or fraud in general, but it's generally only to target a specific person over time and you don't deliver on your promises. It doesn't cover people making false claims per se. Not that any lawyer really wants to take the case on. Often psychics hide behind religious connections or free speech laws, or more commonly in the UK, will put a very small bit of fine print somewhere saying that it's for entertainment purposes or it's a scientific experiment, making legal action complicated. Now, it is actually illegal in Canada and New York State, Pennsylvania, but that doesn't actually stop the practice happening openly at all. Now, most, if not all psychics, will acknowledge there are fakes in the industry that give them a bad name. So I propose the law should be that you can only claim to be psychic under two conditions. If the audience is well aware through clear language that it's for entertainment purposes only, or if you have a license. And to get a license, you just need to prove under reasonable scientific conditions that you can do what you claim. And your license will only cover your tested skills and abilities that have been proven. If there are real psychics, they can carry on working and rid the industry of all of the fakes, something that nobody would argue against, I'm sure. Now, I personally don't believe in hell. So anyone that has passed is not in a bad place. They're not suffering. anyone who loved during their life can make you feel loved as your life continues. I just ask that we do them proud with the life that we live, and we keep them close by keeping them remembered. You don't need a psychic for that. But that's almost my time. Thank you very much for listening. I look forward to hearing from the Locan.
That was brilliant. 45 seconds left. Very well timed. And in fact, I did give you a minute's warning, but I put myself on mute, so you probably didn't hear it. Fantastic stuff. Very interesting, and yeah, I'm really enjoying this, and I can't wait for Larry Locan's response to that, and I will get there in the end with that, and I do apologise. So, Creaky, is there anything you want to say before we hand over to
No. I'm
Locan?
happy to just hand straight over to Ken.
Okay, well, I'll just remind everyone that is the community post up?
Only the one for people to submit questions. We've not put up the polls yet.
So while the Locan is giving his opening 10-minute speech, I'll put a community post for people to vote on who they think has kind of articulated their viewpoint best in the face. It's only a bit of fun, and don't go with what you think is the argument that you side on. Just who do we think's kind of like articulating themselves the best? It's only, like I say, it's only a bit of fun, not to take too seriously, but that's on our community poll. Locan, what I will do is I will reset the clock, and when you tell me you're ready, I'll hit start.
Okay. Just a question before. So right now what I'm doing is am I just discussing my argument, or am I...
You get 10 minutes to say whatever you want to say about the topic, totally uninterrupted. And then later on we get into sort of like the back and forth and question and answering.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay, so say when, and I will start.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready. When.
Okay.
The magic word, when. Okay, so I thought the topic was, should psychics charge for their services? So let me double check. It is, right? Should psychics charge? So I agree with much of what Luke said. There are a lot of people who are scammers out there. It's been happening for a very long time. H.P. Blavatsky was a very prolific scam artist who scammed people out of money, and it still happens to today. So I understand that Luke was a magician. I'm assuming, and maybe he'll clarify this later on, that was probably a stage magician, somebody who goes on and they do prestidigitation and they wow the audience and everything, and that's fun. The form of magic that I study is the form of magic which has been around for a while. It's it was defined by Aleister Crowley as the ability to cause change to occur in conformity with one's will. Now, this can be interpreted in many different ways. You can take it as an objective or a subjective way. My approach to everything is an objective way. I look at everything from an objective perspective. There are people who do tarot readings and there are people who do astrology readings, and those things take time. They also take energy, and they take something from the person who is giving it. And so the person who is purchasing that's the purchase, that's the service that they're purchasing. And it is for entertainment purposes only. And you will see that if you ever go in to see a psychic, or if you, I don't think they have it written on tarot cards, but it's pretty much understood that is for entertainment purposes only. I don't feel very comfortable defending psychics. I will, however, but I would have to equate it to my own perspective of how I believe that magic works. And one of the great things about studying witchcraft and the occult, regardless of whatever opinion people may have of it, is that it is up to the individual to find truth themselves. Instead of having a church that you go to and everybody worships the same thing, in witchcraft and the occult, you are to find your own path, your own belief. And there are people who study the occult who don't believe in gods. They don't believe in spirits. They don't believe in supernatural stuff. And then there's people who believe in demonic spirits and archangels and all these things. So you have a very wide gamut of people who believe various things, who study the occult and witchcraft. So when somebody comes into a psychic to get a crystal ball reading or a hand read or a tarot reading or maybe just clairvoyant, stare into a crystal ball or whatever, chances are they probably already have the answer in the back of their mind. And they're coming into the psychic to sort of, maybe get some kind of conclusion to it or find out if it's right. And absolutely, what Luke said is correct. Most people who are psychics, they will evaluate a person when they come in. Maybe do they have a wedding ring on? Are they dressed nice? They'll pick up various different things to find out maybe what's going on. And they might ask them questions, or the other person might lead questions, or if they're doing a tarot reading, they might point out certain cards. And what the psychic is doing is they're sort of doing a form of counseling, but it's not a professional counseling session. They're not talking to their family members. They're not talking to their coworkers. They're not talking to their friends. They're talking to someone who they sort of feel comfortable with, and maybe they can kind of let stuff out that they wouldn't feel comfortable letting out to someone else. Now, there's various ways that people look at this, as Luke had mentioned. You can look at this as, those people are scamming those people because they're not offering them any tangible service. It's not something you can carry home with you and show or put up in your wall or anything. It's a temporary thing. It's kind of like music or art. You look at it and you appreciate it. It's pretty much the same. It's kind of a funny thing when I think about it that way. But my point is that it doesn't do anything for you. Listening to music or looking at art, it doesn't do anything for you. It's not part of a human function. You can go without music and you can go without eating. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm nervous. You can go without music and you can go without art, but you can't go without eating. That is a human function that you have to do. And I find that a lot of skeptics, and I'm skeptical myself, but I find what happens is a lot of skeptics, they place a bar way up here for everybody, but unfortunately, they don't meet that bar. They judge people and they assume that their beliefs and their silly beliefs, or they're stupid, or what. I mean, I've heard all kinds of things. And, it does get you over time. But I lost my train of thought. I don't know. I think I'm done. That's my opening statement.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to take 30 seconds, you've got about 4 minutes left. If you just want to take 30 seconds,
that's okay.
Okay. Well, I really enjoyed listening to both of those. So I'll pass on to Creaky again in a second. But obviously, the poll is up now for round one. Whoever, like I said, it's just a bit of fun. Just vote for who you think's articulate the opinion the best. And I really did enjoy listening to both of those. We go again. So similar, up to 10 minutes each, just to discuss or refute anything anybody else has said. And then we'll get into the back and forth where you can sort of question each other for half an hour. Creaky, did we decide on what time we are stopping the debate for the questions?
Well, based on last week, I think maybe about, if we try to call it done by 8:30, so we've got the last 30 minutes to go through the questions, because we didn't get through as many as we would have liked last week. So
we do get a lot of questions. So if we do our rebuttals now, then that will give us at least half an hour of continuous back and forth before the questions. So Luke, it's now your turn, and you get again up to 10 minutes to kind of elaborate on anything that Logan said, or anything that you might want to say in the first round. I'll just start the clock when you say you are ready.
Okay, thank you very much. So my rebuttal, I'll pick on some of the points that Logan said. First of all, it's entertainment, it's people's choice. Talking about other faiths, now I know Loken comes from more of a Wiccan background, but also that connection with psychics, a little religion, I don't want to go too far into that, as well as art, which is an interesting one for me. All deep-rooted subjects, so I will be careful. People want to spend their money, it's their choice, it's just a bit of fun. I hear it a lot. Now, I think Darren Brown is one of the best performers, magical, confounding, but I also love Penn and Teller, and I've done both kinds of magic myself. Despite knowing and being able to do most of what they do, I still love seeing them live last year. It is genuinely fun, and acknowledging that it's not real doesn't spoil that fun. Now, I've been to many mediums and psychics, and no medium I have ever seen has made it clear that it's for fun. But mentalists do, and I think there's a difference there. I think some do, and they do it overtly. Darren Brown, watch Evening of Wonders, it's on YouTube. While he's doing it, he's saying it's not real. Now, the whole money thing is a bit of a red herring. People don't want to spend money on anything. They want everything for free. But they're prepared to spend the money. In fact, $2.2 billion last year they spent on the paranormal. Now, I think people want help dealing with loss. That's why they're prepared. They want to feel close to someone special or be in the presence of something otherworldly. The other thing, if it's real, they don't want to pay to be lied to. Now, for many, it's kind of a false choice. If you think there is no other way to get over your grief, then you do what you have to do. We need to teach people there are better ways, more reliable, scientifically verified ways. Much of that 2.2 billion could have gone to health services to help everyone in community. Now, the disadvantaged who may not have the resources to go to counselling or risk time off work or worry about mental health stigmatism. Now, many people attest to being genuinely helped with their bereavement by a psychic telling them that they're in touch with a loved one or from their religion. That's great, but it's not the answer. Now, perfectly level. And that is thanks to my copy of The Very Hungry Caterpillar that is propping up one leg. That shouldn't be the default, though. Just because it works doesn't make it right. People actually want help. So let's listen to them and give them real help. Now, there are many other faiths, as Loken pointed to. Now, Wicca, for example, is an officially recognised religion, started in England in 40s and 50s, when it was written into a set of practices. But it has ties and roots in paganism and cultures worldwide, and traditions dating back that I can find at least to 900 with the birth of King Solomon. Now, Wiccans should not charge for their rituals. Wicca is practiced in very different ways by different covens and individuals. I get that. It's not a strict religion like Christianity or Islam, and I absolutely agree with Loken when he says that. Most Wiccans, though, will follow a prohibition against doing harm to others, as stated in their rede, which would include defrauding them. So anyone defrauding by charging for services they know that they can't provide isn't a real witch or a Wiccan anyway. Now, if you want to perform services that would normally require a license or a test, like healing someone or offering medical advice, well then, if you want to advertise predicting the future or psychic powers for money, well, you can get a license to prove that ability. But to be clear, that is not what Wiccans do, and it's not what many of these religions do. So they can carry on doing what they do. That's great. Now, there is magic in Wicca and in other faiths, but it has a number of meanings. Generally, it's about those five senses, controlling of the natural world, but also an understanding of the natural world, predicting the future of natural events. A bit like meteorologists, I guess. It's not seen by all as supernatural, simply nature that is less understood by science through traditional older means. Now, my argument is simply that science is also understanding of nature. All medicine is natural. The difference between science and the magic in this context is that magic states that something works. Well, that's great. But science tells us how and why and does it safely. Now, I think things like Wicca are incredibly important. I think they should be encouraged and shared, just not at a charge and not for the sake of the scientific medicine. Now, the stories and spells that have been told for generations should keep being told so we can see where we came from and have a better understanding of our intrinsic connection to the earth and each other and try and build a healthy balance. Now, the read that I alluded to The first line is simply, by the Wiccan laws, we must in perfect love and perfect trust, which is a beautiful thing. Let's abide by these natural laws, which is doing good. The very last line, which it often gets shortened to, is simply, and ye harm no one, do what you will. So where did the read come from? Well, let's have a look at a website that I found yesterday, and it refers to Gerald Gardner, who created Gardnerian Wicca, a revival of the old pagan tradition. So a lot of this is all deep-rooted. I'll quote from the website. In 1959, Gerald Gardner published The Meaning of Witchcraft. And in Chapter 8, Magic Thinking, Gardner is writing of the differences of orthodoxy and heterodoxy on the subject of pleasure and sin. And he writes, my pleasures are innocent, everyone else's are sin. Witches cannot sympathize with this mentality. They are inclined to the morality of the legendary good King Palsol, who's a character from literature. Do what you like so long as you harm no one. But they, witches, believe a certain law to be important. You must not use magic for anything which will cause harm to anyone. And if, to prevent a greater wrong being done, you must discommode, which is inconvenience, someone, you must do it only in a way which will abate the harm. End quote. Now, everything I've just read comes directly from a website called Ancovans Canaf. Excuse my pronunciation on that, which is Lelocan's old website from 2015, I think. Now, this may be the foundation of the read, a really important poem, and would mean, to my understanding, that a Wiccan could do what they like so long as they don't cause harm, a bit like the golden rule for Christianity. Now, if you're acting to stop a harm, but your actions would inconvenience someone else, well, do it only in a way that would minimally intrusive to stop the harm. So maybe I can explain my view like this. Making psychics pass a test and get a license may cause some inconvenience to people like Wiccans, but it is the least intrusive way of stopping the bigger harm that is done by fakes, scammers, and charlatans. Which kind of suggests that I'd be making religion illegal almost. Now, no normal religious practice supported by holy doctrine and a good morality would be stopped by what I'm advocating here, simply demonetized. Religion is another debate altogether, and I don't want to cross into that line. But it is clear there is an overlap. Now, there are some spiritual churches who don't stem from holy doctrine, preaching things like spiritism. They're not even religion, so don't apply. But even if we are bestowed with gifts from God, like magic, you must know they shouldn't be sold off as cheap tricks. It goes against everything every religion teaches. Now, I'm not saying you can't believe in faith healing or spiritualism. I'm just saying that you shouldn't be charging for it or giving restricted advice without a license, either directly or through collections or membership fees. I'll move on to magic now, which is a weird one because I heard this a lot when I was seeing friends and family.
About a minute and a half, sorry.
Minute and a half, okay, thanks. So in preparing for today, I asked my Facebook channel what they thought on this subject, and 3 different people referred to psychic powers as art, as did Lelocan today, and as did many Wicca people, spokespeople online. So after some thought, I think they're right. I think they're absolutely right. Darren Brown is an artist. Shin Lim, Penn and Teller, David Blaine, even the very annoying Chris Angel are artists plying a craft. I absolutely agree. And it does take time and effort to do what they do. I absolutely agree. But they're all very honest about their lies and the fact that what they do is art and not magic. Now, I threw a definition of art up here: the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination. Imagination, it's not real. Typically in a visual form such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. None of these words are used to describe real psychics ever. They are not artists. To call it art is to admit that it's not true. It is entertainment, and I fully support that. You're muted.
Pat, you're muted. Hit the button. Only I'm allowed to make mistakes.
I wasn't muted. I was just opening my mouth without speaking deliberately. It's something I do from time to time. Have you not noticed that? I do that from time to time. Right. Luke, absolutely fantastic. I remind people that there is a poll open for round 1. Lelocan, you now, again, you get some time just to say whatever it is you want to say. And after that, we'll just have a quick review, and then you can get at each other on the back and forth. Before we get to that, is there anything you want to say, Creaky?
Yeah, just very quickly. remember that if you're submitting questions, they're questions for Luke or Lalokan, not questions about why this is being debated or suggestions for other debates. Keep the questions specific to what's going on live now, please. Thank you very much.
So, Logan, you've got up to 10 minutes, and to say what you want to say.
Okay. All right. When? I'm all set. Okay. So again, I'm sorry. I keep coming back to this. Should psychics charge? So that's what I thought this debate was about. That's what I was prepared for. So, okay. So when somebody goes in for a service with a psychic, they're going in expecting to have some sort of a reading, to get some sort of an answer. They're expecting something out of it. If they go into a psychic and the psychic charges them 10, 20, 50, 100, however much they're going to charge them for the service, if they're pleased with the service, they're probably going to be pleased with the service, and they will be a returning client. If they're not happy with the service, they're not going to come back. I've also known people who have done tarot readings that do it for free. Or what they'll do is they'll say, I'll do a tarot reading for you. If it doesn't work out, or it's not a good tarot reading, or, whatever it is, you're not satisfied with it, no charge. So I understand that Luke he's building up an argument. And so what he's doing is he's taking the most extreme cases he possibly can. And I understand that. That's just what you do in debates. However, the majority of the people out there who are doing tarot readings or casting, well, they don't cast astrology charts anymore. I did that a long time ago. Now you can just get a computer program and do it. It's a lot easier than juggling 5 books to do a reading. But those are services that people, they want. They will go out and they will seek those services. And I often wonder, I've noticed that there's almost, I don't like to say, into binaries, but it seems like there are 2 different people, especially online. Ones who were very skeptical and into facts and into evidence and into, if it doesn't serve a purpose, it's no good. Music, it doesn't serve a purpose. And I touched on this earlier. Art doesn't serve a purpose in a physical sense, but it does speak to us in some way. It speaks to it speaks to a part of us. And people who are moved by music, people who are moved by art, I don't know exactly what it is. I guess each person has a different opinion of what that is, what moves them, makes them excited, or whatever. It has an effect upon them. When you study magic, if you believe that you have psychic abilities, there's an element of it that is completely subjective. There's an element of it that is that you maybe convince yourself or other, somehow you convince yourself that you are able to perceive, perceive the future or perceive something in a crystal ball. There's various things that could be. One is it could be what you are doing is you're picking up communication from, or not picking up communication, but you're picking up nonverbal cues from the person who's sitting across from you. Obviously, maybe you know about them, or there's things that they're wearing, or they have a wedding ring, whatever. I touched on this earlier. Various signals that people can pick up on. That's one thing that is one way to go about, let's say, reading somebody's aura or a crystal ball or a tarot reading or whatever. And then there's people who believe that what it is they're actually picking up some kind of an extrasensory perception or maybe spirits are talking to them or whatever. I don't know what that is. There have been many people who have tried to measure magic. They've tried to weigh it. They've tried to put it under a microscope. And it's the same thing with, proving God exists. God of the gaps, magic of the gaps. You can call it whatever you want. I can give you story after story after story about experiences that I've had that I don't have any explanation for. And the only explanation I have is a coincidence. It just happens. It's a coincidence. And I'm perfectly willing to accept this answer because it speaks to me. And that's what's important to me. Now, I had to step away for a second, so I apologize. So I missed some of your conversation about, it looks like you got into talking about Wicca. That's fantastic. I'm more than happy to talk about Wicca at another time. Right now I'm focusing on should psychics charge. So that's what I'm focusing on. So yeah, I think I'm going to close it with saying this, is that if you are going to a psychic for an answer, the chances are you probably already have that answer in the back of your mind. Maybe you just haven't realized it or actually said it or admitted it to yourself. And so when you're going to a psychic, you're hoping to get that answer. And that person is there to help you to find that answer, whatever that answer is. If they're picking up on various cues or they're actually talking to your old Aunt Mabel, which I don't know if they are, but maybe they are. I don't have that ability. So it's not something that I have direct experience with. Maybe getting an actual psychic would have been helpful. Yeah. So, I mean, I understand that. I also didn't understand $2.2 billion. I really would like to understand where got that figure from, and maybe you can explain that later on. But that's an awful lot of money, and I don't know how you would calculate that, because a lot of the people I know who do astrology readings and tarot readings are within our own community. We support each other that way. I know many writers, and writers do not make a ton of money on books. They make pennies on those books. And they usually end up having to take a second job, just to pay the rent. And that's understandable. That's just how it is. But nobody's making a lot of money. At least honest people aren't making a lot of money. Yeah, you get people out there who are scamming people and saying, someone will put a curse on you and I can lift it off of you, but it's going to cost you. And this is the things that you have to do. And people like that make people who actually really want to help other people, doesn't do them any good, because it makes them look like scam artists. And as for having a license for it, I think that is maybe a good idea. I think that if that was the case, I think that there would be a large section of the population that would not be able to meet that, and they wouldn't be able to do tarot readings for people or astrology charts or whatever. And maybe that's a good thing. So yeah. I think if you look at it from the perspective of what exactly are they doing for me, and is it something that I can, I mean, if they're not doing anything tangible for me, why even bother going to a psychic? I think if you're in a position to kind of start from there, I don't understand why you would I would never expect to see Lou talking to a psychic or reading, or going in to get a tarot reading, because that's not, he already knows inside of himself that that's not true. And so he's not going to go and do that. But somebody else who might be seeking an answer, yeah, they can be taken advantage of by a small percentage of the population. But for the majority of the people out there who are honestly trying to be helpful, When they do a tarot reading, it's almost like a counseling session, but it's not a counseling session because they're not giving them, advice. This person can say, "Oh, well, this person is a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and so I should take their advice." They understand that it's not. It's almost like guidance. In mythology, you always hear, or not always hear, but you read about Merlin or Gandalf or whoever, some old guy who has some kind of wisdom. He's lived a long life. He has a lot of knowledge. And there's something about that we cue into. It's almost like a mythical archetype we hold inside of ourselves. Understand there are people out there who have lived life. They have wisdom. They have knowledge that is not in that person's grasp. And so they will seek these people out and counsel with them. That's okay. Am I up?
Sorry, I took my eye off the clock, but go on, just finish what you're going to say, and apologies.
Okay. That person's grasp with them. That's okay. Am I up? That kind of archetype is out there. And I think that is the role that a good psychic, if you want to call it that, or counselor can do. I don't do any of that. That's not what I do. I know he talked about the Wake and Read, and I'm so grateful that he actually knows where it comes from. Because there's even a lot of new people who are studying Wicca or witchcraft or whatever who don't understand the history of it. So I appreciate that he understands the history of it. Yes, they do not charge for money. We do not charge people for initiation. We do not charge people for readings. We do not charge people to learn. We don't charge people for it. And there's several good reasons for it. One is because when Gerald Gardner was studying witchcraft after he claims to have been initiated into the New Forest Coven in May of 1939. What's it? Yeah, it's May of 1939. The Witchcraft Act was still in effect from 1735, and then it was later replaced by the Fraudulent Mediums Act. But so he couldn't really claim that he was a witch, and also he didn't want. Money has a way of corrupting people, and if you feel like you're taking money for something, you kind of feel like you have to put on a show or do something to sort of give the person the answer that they're looking for because they paid you for it. And immediately once you do that, in my opinion, and again, I'm not speaking for every witch out there, but once you do that, what you've done is you've broken that trust in a sense, because you're no longer just working one-on-one with somebody trying to help them get an answer that they want. Now you're selling them a service, and you're doing that for them. And there are people who want those type of services. And again, if they want to pay for it, then that's fine. I think that is an agreement you have between two people. And that's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to about psychics charging money, is that it's an agreed upon amount. If you're satisfied with the surface, come back. If you're not satisfied, you're not going to come back. So, and with that, I'll close.
Sorry, I'm going to have to stop that there because I did let it run over a little bit too much because I took my eye off the clock. But thanks to both of you. Really appreciate that. Creaky, is there anything you want to bring up? Or?
No, apart from you're a terrible timekeeper. I'm an awful live streamer. You're a terrible timekeeper. But we do try. We do try.
We will get there.
Yeah, we will get there. Probably. Yeah, we will. Why am I so unconfident in our abilities? Shall we move straight into the back and forth? It's 8:05.
Yes. I just very quickly, Luke, can I just ask a question very quick? Can you just sum up for me, because I don't know. Can you just sum up for me in like 20 seconds? You mentioned Wiccan and that come up. What is a Wiccan?
So a Wiccan is... people mostly know paganism in the UK, but it's the older... I don't want to use the word religion because it's different to a very structured religion. But there were lots of old faiths and beliefs, generally in the UK, but around the world. And there's Celtic branches that moved on, and Welsh. It was evoked earlier. And then in the 50s, Gardner kind of brought them all together and put them into a package to say, we're going to revive this. And he started the Wiccan faith, I guess you would call it. It wasn't a hard and structured religion, but it was a belief system, certainly. Now, the New Forest ended up splitting because he may have made some things up and some of his flock kind of lost confidence in him. And so it's not that strict, and there's different beliefs in it, but a lot of it is magic. I'll come on to it in my 3 minutes because I want to just clarify for Logan what I said and why I invoked it in the first place.
Yeah, so it is time for the back and forth. Now, I know you mentioned the 3 minutes there last week. We did have, it was 3 minutes for me, 3 minutes for the mind of God, 3 minutes for me, 3 minutes for the mind of God. I mean, we haven't really discussed that this week. I mean, how would you two prefer it? Would you prefer it as, just a back and forth conversation, and then if it starts getting heated, we'll just give you time allocations, or what would you two prefer?
I think, we would just go back.
I'm fine with the back and forth.
Yeah. Right. Well, one of you start, and we'll take it away.
If I could just clarify a few things, just to make sure we're on the same page before we go on. And while I have it in my mind, the Fraudulent Mediums Act of 1951 was replaced in 2010 by consumer protections regulations. So, certainly in the UK, as from 2010, fake clairvoyants are held to the same standards as the guy who fits your gas boiler. And if you think he did a bad job, you can take action, prove he was at fault, and that he didn't deliver on his professional promises. And it's all under the same thing. Where I got the $2.2 billion from, which is a very good question. I should have cited my source. I apologize. That's Ibis World 2019. Ibis World are a marketing company. That figure is just in the US for 2019. It's a growth of 52% since 2005. And it's shared by 90,000 known psychics. And you're right, there are plenty that are doing it socially. I have a friend who does it online. She reads tarot online. I believe she knows it to be untrue. She makes her living doing it anyway because people believe it, they go away happy. Now, me, when the UK trading standards, after 1 year of that new law coming in 2010, the laws received 872,000 complaints, of which 240 were about psychics. So you could back up your claim with that, saying, absolutely, everyone's happy, what's the problem? I am absolutely advocating against charging for this stuff. Real, it should be out there, it should be known about it, but I don't think you would charge for it if you had these powers. Now, I evoked Wiccans because they are people who are doing spells and magic and stuff, and they're not charging. These things should continue, in my opinion, because they're not harming society, as I said in one of my premises. But I think that most of those people, certainly from the people who have been done in the UK, they didn't know they'd been scammed. Or they went home and they didn't know the laws and they could complain. Who do you complain to? Do you feel stupid that your money has been taken? And that was the biggest issue with the trading standards laws. As someone said in the comments earlier, New York, it's illegal to be a psychic in New York. And yet, Long Island Medium is a successful running television show based in New York. The laws aren't being to. And I will just finally say, before handing it over to you, that when you invoke music and art that don't serve a purpose, while it's a different debate, I would disagree. I think music is an art, and the way that people like Wiccans will practice this kind of thing, I think it's very therapeutic. I think there's an actual genuine place and a genuine need for it. But what you also said was, and you contradict yourself a little bit, was if these people are just doing it and it helps, it's fine. But actually, they should be going to counsellors. I think we should all be sat here arguing that there are not enough counsellors, there are not enough therapists or psychologists or people who do already know the answer and are just looking for that confirmation. There should be a helpline to the NHS or to an American service of equivalent. I don't think you need to have lying scammers. Sadly, there will be some real, genuine people trying to help, but it's under their nose that scammers get in and rake in 2.2 billion. So that's what I'm arguing against, really, not the helpful stuff, all the entertainment for those people who pray, and it is a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I could talk forever. Please, can I let you jump in?
So the 2.2 billion comes from what was it again? IBIS?
IBIS World. They're a marketing research. They look at marketing,
IBIS World,
sales, and market share of stuff. Statistics.
Okay, and so specifically, what did they cover?
I'd have to bring up my reference documents again, but in fact,
okay, all right, it's okay.
But they basically
okay.
covered psychics, mediums, and anything that was, the word is new age that is used, but outside the laws of physics, I think is the way they covered it.
Okay. Well, that covers it quite a bit. So I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. So. Yeah. I don't know what to say. You know, I agree with you. I agree with much that you said. Again, I'm not into charging for services, and a lot of what I practice is a religion, like you had touched on, and you know, it doesn't involve anybody else. It involves myself. It's subjective, and it is my practice and it's my belief. I feel very strongly that everyone should have a right to believe whatever it is that they want to believe, as long as they're not hurting anybody. Now, if you start hurting somebody, start breaking laws, that's a whole different thing. So that's my position on that. I don't know if I contradicted myself, because I think that those were two separate thoughts. They weren't back to back. One thought was that, yes, people go in for sort of counseling. It's not exactly counseling, because they know it's not a psychiatrist. They know it's not a psychologist. They know it's not a drug rehab counselor or whatever. They understand that going into the situation. It's kind of like going to see your butcher and knowing that that's what is going to happen. You're going to go to the butcher, they're going to cut you out some meat, and that's what they're going to give you. They're not going to paint your car. It's not what you would expect them to do. And there are people who do, who can benefit from counseling. It sounds like you're familiar with Wicca and the occult, and that's fantastic. So you probably know Israeli Regardie. Name familiar to you? Okay. So he was somebody who was in the Golden Dawn, and one of the things that he recommended, Golden Dawn was I'm sure you probably know, maybe not for the audience, it was a magical order. That's the way to describe it. Obviously, Aleister Crowley was a part of it. W.B. Yeats, a lot of very famous people were a part of that group. But Israel Regardie was he was sort of like the secretary there, and he did a lot of. He really kept that place going. But one of his recommendations was that if people get into magic, they should see a counselor, like a professional counselor, a psychologist. And one of the reasons I think that he suggested that is because we are susceptible to fooling ourselves. We are susceptible to, believing what we want to believe, and you have to be a little skeptical. You have to do that. You have to not allow yourself to fall into fantasy. It's sort of walking a very fine edge between sort of like insanity and sanity, art and science, the known and the unknown. Like when I go into ritual, I go in circle, I forego my skepticism. I enter into, in my mind, a different realm, and that is where I am. And whatever it is that I'm doing in there, that's sort of the understanding that I have of that. So Yes, if you go in and see a tarot reader or a ESP or a crystal ball reader, they're not counselors, they're not professional counselors, but in a sense they're kind of like somebody you can talk to and work out the problem that you may be having, or that question that you probably already have an answer for, but maybe you're looking for some kind of confirmation. So
Okay.
that's it.
Cool. Oh, that's good. And I've got a load to say. I mean, I'm so passionate about this subject. I could talk forever, and I don't want to do that. One of the things that kind of really struck a chord with me, which you said, is people go and they know this what they're getting. If they wanted to go to a therapist, they would, but they don't, and they know. They don't know, and this is my big worry.
How do you know that they don't know?
Because than the amount of money, but every single psychic I have been to has been a group setting, apart from once. And everyone in that group, everyone was going, is like, no, keep an open mind, using your words, forgo my skepticism for a little bit, and because they want it to be real. And that's the thing. I would say 90% of the audience at every one I've been to has lost somebody, has a gap, has an issue. And that's tragic. There's so many people who need help. And when you see 2.2 billion, now it's not something I was going to debate here. My personal thought is, wouldn't it be amazing that if you walk down the seafront in New York or on the edge of on the Hudson there, instead of seeing shop after shop of psychics, if you saw counselors and therapists, so you could pop in for $20, for $50 and just get 30 minutes. But if you get in a cab to get there, the cab driver has to sit a test and hold a license to prove they can drive it safely. If you wanted some help from a therapist, they would have to sit a test, prove they can do it, and that they weren't giving you harmful advice. Your local gas fitter has to sit a test to prove they can do it. Your local restaurant has to prove at least they know about cleanliness before they're given a license to do what they do. At the moment, the industry is basically unregulated. The regulations that are in place are ignored continuously. And so, sadly, every single reading I've ever seen on TV, online, or in person, people have given either no information at all, and everyone just takes on it was great, even though nothing actually really was said, or harmful and dangerous information. For example, let's talk about Nancy Reagan, because she's really famous. And not everyone in the chat will be as old as me, but people remember that her husband, Ronald Reagan, was almost assassinated. Someone had a shot at him, he got hit, he went to the hospital, and that freaked her out. That was in 1988. So I was still quite young. But it came out afterwards that because of this, Nancy Reagan called in a psychic. And for 7 years, according to the chief of staff at the time, Donald Reagan's book, and Nancy Reagan herself, for 7 years, Quigley, this psychic, made decisions on every single piece of foreign policy and the president's movements. I mean, for 7 years. This is the harm it could have done. We almost went to war with Russia in this moment. Ronald Reagan, his timing for his cancer surgery was given by the psychic. Not from the doctors at Rare, it was given by the psychic. When she said it was okay to have his surgery, that's when they did it. And this is what people do. They get sucked into it, and they genuinely believe it. Now, my bigger problem in all of this is when you say, I forego my skepticism. Because when else in life do we do that? When we're crossing the street, do we forego our belief in traffic? When we're leaving the house, to quote Tim Minchin, do we go through the front door or the window on the 7th floor? We trust in gravity when we're living our lives. When we're making decisions about our finances, we don't forego our skepticism. We don't just hand over our money to people, or we shouldn't. And it's really worrying. And this is why we have Flat Earth or COVID outbreak here that is just crazy, because people forego their skepticism when they shouldn't. It's either real or it isn't. If it is real, then great, let's use it. If it's not real, it should be banished, because it's harming our epistemology, our ability to make reasoned decisions and understand knowledge, in my opinion. But I still do agree with what you're saying about this is your personal thing. That's great. I fully encourage it. And certainly there's many people doing it who aren't charging. And I fully encourage that as well. Because as long as people do understand it's not real, then there is no harm, in my opinion.
There's no, so like we're not on a timer here. You just have the back and forth as you want. There's no time in this section. It's
okay. Well, I wasn't too sure of the format, so my apologies for interrupting.
Oh no, you're right. Yes.
Earlier.
Yeah, just treat it like a conversation back and forth, just whatever.
Yeah. I always find some of these conversations difficult because there's so much assumption that just is thrown in that I have to kind of like go back and sort of pick through. Okay. When I forego my skepticism, that is when I am in circle. That is when I'm in the, for example, I don't know if you've ever played sports, you've run, or I don't even, did he step away?
Sorry, played what?
I only
didn't quite hear.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I wasn't too sure. I didn't see you on screen, so I was wondering if you stepped away. Because I wanted to ask you this, make sure you were there. But or I wanted to explain this to you. So when I do that, when I forego my skepticism, that is the point that I do that. And if you've ever ran or you've ever practiced any kind of a sport or anything like that, you understand that when you get into that mode, that's the mode. That's where you're at. You're not thinking about, your job, or your girlfriend, or your rent, or you're not thinking about any of that. You're thinking about, this is the race. I got to win this. This is what I need to focus on right now. And that's what you do. When you are in circle, whatever it is that you are focused on that. And again, when I described what magic is, it is not, you do not poof, it's out of existence. They don't fall from the sky. They don't spontaneously pop into existence. Everything that magic causes to happen has a path that it comes into and manifests into reality. And it can be explained. It explains the coincidence. It can be explained. So it's not a magical phenomenon that is unknown or I honestly believe it is unknown. Exactly how the effect takes place. I don't understand that. I don't think anyone does. I think I've talked with a lot of people that have different theories about how magic works, but it does work for me, and that's all I really care about. I have no desire. There's no financial gain that I have for convincing you. My beliefs are not predetermined by your believing what I believe. That's not how it works. Sometimes I feel like other religions, especially the monotheistic religions, they're kind of like, their belief is dependent upon you believe. You have to believe in Jesus because I believe in Jesus. And it's not that way for myself. It's not that way for a lot of witches or occultists. And there was something else. I don't know anything about Nancy Reagan, Ronald Reagan. I didn't know anything about what you just mentioned about her talking with a psychic. I'll have to look into that. I agree with you. I think that there should be, if I'm going to charge somebody money for my magical abilities or my psychic abilities, yeah, and yes, I would assume that they would want to, prove it to me, or do something, prove to me that you can do this before I fork over some money. That's completely understandable. So I think that that's a good idea. one of the other things you mentioned, or I had brought up, and then you had mentioned about music and art. The reason why I brought that up was it was sort of an analogy of how if I'm going to build these, yes, I'm going to because you go in and you don't know what it was sort of going to happen, but you have an idea of what's going to happen. You have a question about this, and you want to get the answer to it, and it serves no other purpose. It doesn't serve, it depending on maybe what the question was. It's not gonna keep you from being thirsty. It's not gonna keep you from being hungry. It's not gonna help you sleep. It's not gonna help you. All these various things, all these physical things, it's not going to help you. But it might help you in another way. If you listen to music or you look at art, there's a certain part of that soul, and that is what I was trying to key into. And again, earlier maybe I didn't describe it very well, but it seems like there's different people online. There's the people who are just kind of like, this is logic, and then there's other people who are kind of like, yeah, logic is fantastic, but I want to imagine. I want to create. I want to, live in the realm of fairies and magic and stuff that speaks to us at some level. And it does speak to us. You can look at the movie industry. I mean, that's a very good example. Mythology, stories. And I believe that art and music and beauty and various things like that, it comes from this aspect of us. It doesn't come from the logic side. That's my personal opinion. I don't have any studies for that, but that's what I believe. I think that there's absolutely a necessity for logic and reason, and I think it is something that has definitely helped our society. But one of the things that we seem to have lost is that element of imagination and creativity and beauty, and that anything is possible. And we would not be in the civilization that we are today if we did not have those people who are willing to look beyond the veil of what this world is and try to peel back and look at the face of God. This is what a lot of people like myself, we try to do, is we try to understand the world, and we're willing to take it a step further to explore our mind and explore any possible spiritual realm.
So I'm going to start. Can I just agree with you here a lot? I agree with 90% of what you've just said in the last 3 minutes. Definitely. I was a runner. I ran internationally as an orienteer. I was 8th in the world in my class, 6 or 7 marathons, and I don't remember most of it because I was off in my own little world, forgetting about the pain. I see what you mean. So when you say forego your skepticism, it's more foregoing the rest of the world and immersing yourself in something. Now, you can't see because I'm on a beach in Bermuda here, but I'm actually in a basement. Next to me is my drum set. Next to that is my easel, where I do really, really bad oil paintings and some reasonably good sketching. That creative side, I think, is really important. And I absolutely echo your words. It should be encouraged. It cannot be lost. Absolutely. Now, I think that go back to the same IBIS poll that I was going to do a slideshow for this, and there's a really nice slide that shows that what your beliefs kind of represent is 11% of the US as other, right? So it's less than 11%, but it's other. Everyone else, palm readers, astrology, specific tarot cards, those doing auras were specifically percentaged, and where you are is somewhere else, I think. And I agree with it entirely. However, that's 89% of potential charlatans, scam artists, who are telling people, not because it gives them an art-like emotion or a musical stress relief, they're saying it to make the money. $2.2 billion in just the US. I mean, I genuinely considered when I was researching these numbers 6 months ago or so, I was kind of, I'm in the wrong business, genuinely, because I was looking at the online laws for this, and the way that obscenity or porn is policed online isn't used to police this kind of fraudulent activity. And the way that people profit from the porn industry is exactly the same way as you could profit from this industry, because there are so many people who genuinely believe it to be true. They go to their tarot reader because it's easier than going to their doctor or to their therapist or asking their friends and family even. They genuinely believe, and there are millions and millions and millions of stories I could give of those that genuinely believed and then got ruined. I would ask, I guess, I have some questions that would probably clarify it a bit. And the word magic gets used in lots of different ways. But for me, it's either real or it isn't. Or we don't know. There is that third answer, and I'm very happy to say I don't know a lot of the time. So in your opinion, is there magic that goes outside of physics and the known fundamental forces and fundamental elements that is genuinely real? Because if that's the starting point, then as long as that's proven, well, then we can all accept it's real. And I'm happy for that.
Well, that's easy. My answer is yes. But I have no way to prove it. So it's yes, but it's unknown. For me, it's yes. I absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Now, I would kind of agree with you there. I would not say no. I can't scientifically say, no, it is not real. I can say all psychics that have been tested, I can disclaimers like that, but I can't honestly say that, no, it's real. I think all science that's been done on it is flawed, and that's a massive rebuke on the scientific community at large. I think people got tempted by the funding money that came in, certainly in SRI, because it was quite horrendous, the money they were getting from the government here. I think it should be tested, though. But I'm a big believer of people believing what is real and having good reasons for the knowledge they have. We can't do anything absolutely, but let's get some level of confidence before we start taking 2.2 billion off of our population.
Can I just interject just for 1 second, just to ask for a clarification on the last question? So I know you asked a minute ago, like, is magic real? And can you give your answer to that? Can we just dig a little bit deeper into that? So when you say, magic is real, can you just sort of explain the type of things that you think, that you experience that, magic can do for you? Like when you say it's real, like what does it look like? If that makes sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't look like anything. It doesn't look like anything. There's a lot of various instances that can be explained. It's all coincidence. Obviously, I got a spell for the lottery. I didn't win the lottery, so it doesn't always work. But a long time ago, I did a spell for a place that I wanted to live. I was living in Walnut Creek. I wanted to move to San Francisco, where I live now. There was a specific. I wanted to have a window facing east. I wanted to have a view, and just so happens the apartment that I got had a window facing east, and it had a pretty nice view. So obviously, that's a coincidence.
Did you go out and choose that apartment? Did you look through the listings and go, "I'll take that one," or was it just
no? No. I was looking for an apartment, and there were two apartments that I was shown. And the first apartment was like, no, this is not it, And then the second one I saw was it, and I go, you know what? This is the one I want, and I took it immediately.
You will find that.
So I didn't. This was back in. Huh?
Sorry, please go on.
I didn't hear that.
So I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought you'd finished.
No, it's okay. It's okay to interrupt me. What you...
I do think that you'll generally find what you're looking for in the last place you look. And if you have something in your mind of what you're looking for, when you find it, well, there it is. This is an argument almost that is used It is that designs versus created. It's exactly what I wanted. It must have almost been built for me. Well, you just made it, I think. And I wouldn't call it magic. I think it's brilliant. I wouldn't call it magic. I wouldn't call meteorologists predicting the future. I think they're understanding weather patterns.
I think what a meteorologist is doing is that they're looking at a map of, winds and all these various things, and they're making predictive models for it. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I would do as a psychic, I would say things like.
I'm happy to give other examples if you want.
Yeah, I'd actually quite like to hear a couple more if that's okay.
Okay, so another example is that I was, and you can actually go on to my YouTube page and see it, but I was teaching people how to make a talisman. So a talisman is something that you put your energy into it, and then you wear it, or you put it on. You put it somewhere, and it kind of reminds you of whatever it is you're looking for, or or maybe it's a protective talisman or whatever. So I created, it was a paper talisman, because you can create them on paper. You don't have to do it out of metal. And I was like, okay, I want $5,000. And I didn't expect this to be real. I was doing this for the video. I wasn't doing this for anything. So a little more than a month. So it wasn't exactly a month, but a little more than a month. I was looking for work, and I got a job with somebody, and they sent me it was actually $4,000 something. It wasn't exactly $5,000, but it turned out to be a scam. So I took the check to the bank because I was kind of wondering about this, and they said, "Oh no, this isn't real. This is a fake check." So it was some kind of a scam that was going around, and what they do is you deposit that money, and then they have you purchase various things and send it to them or something, I'm assuming. And so you end up spending your own money on items that you buy for them, like you buy them a laptop, you buy them a camera, whatever. That you use this $5,000, but this money was actually your money. So that was another instance that I believe was magic. This is something that I had set out to do, and I saw the results. Obviously, coincidence, right? It's a coincidence. There's other things that have happened to me. This was not a magic. There was no intention behind it, but something in my mind told me to look up and move. I looked up and I moved, and a bird shit right where I was standing. Complete coincidence. I don't know. Maybe I heard something. Maybe I saw my friend's eyes look up for a second. I mean, there's an explanation for it. So there are instances that have happened that I can't exactly explain, but they can be explained by coincidence. All of them can be explained by coincidence because nothing pops out of midair. It doesn't poof into existence. It takes a particular path, whatever that path is, to accomplish whatever it is that goal is. And again, I'm going to go back to Aleister Crowley's definition of magic, because you can look at that as another sense. Like, let's say you're looking for work, right? If you sit at home and you don't do anything, you don't put resumes out, you don't actually go out into the street and actually talk to people and look for work, it's not going to magically appear to you. You have to actually go out and do stuff. But if you go out and do this, and you have done a spell for yourself, give yourself a little more confidence when you go out looking for work, and I've done this before, you find a job. There was this one job that I wanted, and what I wrote on the resume was hire me, and it was a magical act. And I put the resume in, and I got a call back, and I got hired. Complete coincidence. It wasn't magic, it's coincidence. So,
yeah, and I would just ask where that line is. For example, if I could prove to you genuinely, without a shadow of a doubt, to your satisfaction, that something that you currently think of as magic had an explanation, that's not going to disprove all of magic for you. You know what I mean? If I disproved something that was almost miraculous because I knew the trick behind it, or I knew the statistics, or whatever, and I could prove it to your satisfaction, that's of course not going to disprove magic. But is there anything that would? Is there anything that in your mind could say, do you know what? I'm going to get rid of all this because it's just not worth it in my life. It's making things harder for me almost, or the things that you want don't come, or actually I've disproved enough of them to realize that statistically it's not worth believing in all of them. Is there a point where you get...
I don't think you understand it at all. Don't understand at all. And that it's not your fault. No, I absolutely need this. This is part of me. Magic is a part of my life. It is a part of my being. It's a part of who I am. And when, like, if I was going to give up sugar, coffee, or alcohol, I actually did give up smoking a long time ago. These things are all, can be destructive for some people, and they don't want, maybe they don't want it in their life. Magic doesn't.
I knew you would say no to that, and I think that's probably the right answer for you. So now imagine, put yourself in the position of somebody who hasn't worked out how to bring it into their life in the way you have, so they're paying for it. And every kind of magic experience, they don't see for themselves.
What do you mean they're paying for?
They're going to a psychic or a medium or their tarot card reader.
Oh, okay. So
and they're paying someone to tell them the next magical thing or how their life will be improved. Rather than putting themselves in that position and finding it for themselves, they're paying somebody week in, week out, month in, month out for every decision. That can be really corrosive for them. Now, that's not to say the magic isn't real, but that's how many people are using psychics and mediums. And I think that's really destructive. That doesn't mean that it's not real, but if they would get more from looking within, understanding the world around them, and making their own decisions on whether to buy a lottery ticket or whether to go for that job or whether to move house or date that guy or whatever it is, if they can look from their own experiences, isn't it healthier for them to do that than going to Mystic Mitch and potentially being told something that's just wrong because he's not real? And how does she know which ones are real and which ones aren't? This is what I'm arguing against here, not what you're doing, but that's a toxic situation.
We're getting pretty close to time where we have to go for the questions now. What I'm going to do is let Layla can just have the last say on that and say what he wants to say. But after that, if we can go to the questions. So sorry to interrupt, Layla. Can you have the last say there, and then we'll go into the questions.
Yeah, I'll make it real quick. Again, I already mentioned this earlier. You're taking the extremes. I understand that's you're trying to build up an argument, but you're taking an extreme. There's a very small percentage of people who do that.
$2.2 billion. Keep going back to it. Sorry.
That was all I was going to say. It wasn't a long tirade.
Okay. So we've got questions from the chat that have been building up.
I'm looking forward.
Let's see. Well, now we don't usually run past 9 o'clock. So we've got 15 minutes to get through these. So if it's at all possible, if we can keep our answers short, because we've got quite a few, maybe like 30 seconds if we can, and then we'll bounce to the next questions, because otherwise we'll not get through them all. Creaky, have you got one? Do you want to start? Creaky, you there?
What are you there?
Can't hear you, Creaky. Am I muted?
No, we can still hear.
He's muted himself. Right. Creaky, we can't hear you, so I'm going to crack on until we can hear you, because something's happened.
We need the woman from the poltergeist to come and get him.
One of us is muted somewhere. It's sending me a message. All right, he's got a microphone issue. So, as if by magic. What do you think? Now, question one then. This one is going to Layla, I think this is for you. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's from Remember Old Fashioned Trousers. That's a good username. And the question is, why do spirits from the other side only ever remember the first letter of somebody's name? So I think we know what they're trying to say there, Layla. What do you think? What's your take on that?
Oh, well, they're obviously feeling. They're obviously trying to garnish. They're trying to get information. That's why they do that.
So it's a cold reading sort of technique. So I mean, because one thing I've definitely got from you from all this is you're absolutely 100% happy that a lot of what goes on out there, in your opinion, is cold reading and it is for entertainment, etc. That's a big part. So that's not something you'd argue against. You're for that as a large part of it, or have I misrepresented you there?
No. I mean, yeah. I mean, I kind of anticipated this debate going in a different direction, but it's okay. Yeah, I mean, it's you. They do cold readings, or not cold readings. That's not the term, but I mean, they do. They pick up on various things, and yeah, they'll throw out like, oh yeah, somebody starts with an A, and is there somebody who has a grandmother who's sick, or and they'll do various things to try and figure it out. And that's part of the scam. And I was actually kind of arguing people who are actually trying to help somebody. They're not trying to scam them. That wasn't the angle that I was going for.
Yeah. Just really quickly, the most common letters are J and M. They always hear a J or G sound and an M. Most common letters for people's names in the world. That's why.
Well, if I ever decide to do that and lead a life of crime, I'll do that. Actually, I'll probably rob banks, make more money that way.
Next question. I don't know if Creaky's got his microphone working. I can see him now, and he's shaking his hand. Okay, so I'm going to have to pick out the most relevant ones as we go up. Okay, so this one's from Simon Spencer, and I think this is to both of you, so we'll go to Luke first and then to you later. Do you think that they should, and I do mean psychic should, ask for donations, but get the donations after the prediction to the public is made, so it can be decided whether they deserve it or not?
No, because the vast majority of people think they've had a good reading. Because they're in an emotionally distraught state, they want to hear from their loved one. They'll believe anything. Trust me, they believed me. I was a moron, and they still believe me. So no, I think that if you can't do it, you shouldn't do it. If you can't drive a car, don't become an Uber driver. Prove you can do it, and then by all means charge for your service.
Pelican? I guess the question really
hasn't been my experience.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, my experience has been different. I've known people who have had good readings and other people who have had not so good readings. So, yeah.
I did a reading on Creaky last night, sent by the email. I don't know if he's read it, but we'll see if it's any good. Maybe I got him close.
I'll check it. He did.
Yeah. I would be really skeptical about going to a brain surgeon who just started brain surgery and hasn't been doing it for a long time.
Next one, and apologies if I'm missing yours. Okay, this is for Ken. If there is a measurable difference between charlatans and authentic psychics, why is there no outcry within the industry and standards of testing to authenticate the real ones and expose the fake ones? So I suppose, why is the industry not regulating itself? If there are authentic ones and non-authentic ones, why is the self-regulation not occurring? They should do the same thing with music. They should do the same thing with music and art, because not all music is good and not all art is good. There's a lot of crappy art. There's a lot of crap music, and I think you'll find that the people who enjoy the music and enjoy the art are going to go towards that
and the ones who don't enjoy that are not going to go towards it. So that's my answer.
So it's sort of regulated by the attitude of the people who want to use it. Like so those that want to use it and are happy to buy into it will, and if they feel they're getting something from it.
Yeah, and if you're looking for an answer and you want an answer and you go and you talk to somebody and you feel like he's giving you the answer, then yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm honestly torn about the whole regulation part, because I agree. I think that there should be a certain, but I don't exactly understand how that would take place, because it's also going to cut into the people who are out there trying to make an honest living and trying to actually help people. So it would hurt them. So I'm torn.
Brilliant. Luke, one for you. Do you believe that some psychics actually believe that they are psychic? And if so, how does this exasperate the problem of these charlatans? How do we deal with people who are willfully self-delusional?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely believe that some people believe they are psychic or mediums, or there is meaning in tarot or Ouija boards, even though it's a board game. And there are people who are duped by fake training courses, and they actually go on because they are taught to believe that they can do this stuff. And it's really sad. And as I said in my rebuttal, I think you are going to throw out some genuine people who generally are trying to help if you were to put in laws about licensing. But I think it's something that we could lose unless they prove they can do it. Because although they're well-meaning, and I mean them no harm, they've got to wake up and realize that there is a real world, things can be explained, and we should all try our best to understand what is true, not what feels good. That makes sense.
Okay, thank you. I want to give you some time to reply to that, Ken, but this is a question that I've seen a few times in the chat tonight, as well as in the question section here, and this is for you. So this is from Sean Mann. He says, do you think it's right for a medium to tell the mother of a missing child that the child is dead when they are later found alive? Or I suppose, do you think it's right for a medium, to expand on that, to tell the mother of a missing child anything until the facts are known?
Is it a question for me?
That was a question for you. So I suppose you're using... I mean, I don't know what your view on mediums are, whether, because you've not kind of mentioned that too much, but just like,
I think that if a mother is missing their child, I think that they should take that to the police. I don't think they should be going to a medium for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, while there's an investigation ongoing, some people like to involve mediums on the side, and get the information with that.
I have 30 seconds on that.
Yeah.
Just, I've got lots on this because I think it's horrendous. But if you go back to the Atlanta child murders in 1980, 10 black children had been killed, 4 more were missing. And so this is the talk of everything. But Dorothy Allison's book had just come out, Famed Psychic, which detailed her work helping detect this. So Atlanta residents flooded the police with phone calls to get this psychic to solve the case for them. The police eventually got in touch, spoke to her. She gave them 42 possible names. None of them were correct. Now, the police had to spend a huge amount of time and resources fielding all those phone calls, dealing with all that stuff when they could have been chasing down other leads. Of course, the parents build up some kind of hope. But actually, when the murderer was found, obviously beared no resemblance to anything that the psychic had said. And afterwards, the police department and the FBI stated that neither Dorothy nor anyone else had ever helped in any serious crime, giving any genuine evidence to help solve anything in the US. And I could find no reference of anyone outside of Australia solving a crime. The 2 in Australia, one of them probably committed the murder.
I'd like to expand a little bit and just ask Lailakan if like, do you see a separation between mediumship, clairvoyancy, and what you've been describing as the the magic you experience? Is there a separation, or do you think that it all blurs into one spectrum?
I honestly believe that there are. I think that if you spend a lot of time, I think yes, but it's something that you sort of, it's there, and you kind of you sort of tune into it, and yeah, I mean, I believe that ESP, clairvoyance, clairaudience, a lot of the things that people call psychic abilities can also, there's also terms that you can use in magic or the occult. Extrasensory perception is just like looking through a crystal ball or using a Ouija board, that's made by Parker Brothers, or tarot reading. Clairvoyance, maybe you can just close your eyes and try to see or look at a black mirror and try to perceive something. It's not easy. It takes time, and maybe maybe you don't know exactly what it is you're seeing or why you're seeing it. It could be just a projection or reflection, your own subconscious coming out. It could be all sorts of various things. But yeah, I do believe that they are similar. I think sometimes medium, when people talk about spirits, I don't believe in spirits because we would have so many spirits around us if we had a spiritual world, because there's just so many people who have died before us. I mean, it would be thick, You'd be like wading through spirits. So I don't know what happens after we die. Hopefully I won't find out too soon. There's a lot of questions that I have that I don't have the answers to. So yeah.
So I think we've got time for two more. This one's for you, Luke. Luke, incredulity aside, do you agree that psychics offer a form of entertainment and should be paid like any other entertainer?
Yes, absolutely. Go and watch Dan Brown. That's all I'd say, because that's the level. If you can be better than that, absolutely. I've performed mentalism, as I call it, but I wouldn't call it psychic. I'd call it mentalism. But all I'm stating is that if you're doing it for entertainment purposes, everyone should be aware of that. It should be clear and bold in the room, on all marketing material. You can say it to people so they know it's not real. And the other thing is, I think it's irresponsible giving people advice that a professional would have to set a test to give. Whether it's financial advice, your financial advisor has to stick to strict laws. So even an entertainer shouldn't be giving financial advice, for example. That's irresponsible. So as long as they stick within entertainment boundaries, absolutely. And go and watch Psychic Fails. Very entertaining.
Brilliant. And last question, we'll get this for Ken. I think I did skip past one before.
I fixed my microphone if anyone cares.
Oh, it's back. Well, well done. Well done. Would you
almost as if by magic. I'll be honest, my attention has not been perfect. I've not really been paying attention to which ones you asked, so I'm afraid you carry on, because I'd be afraid of repeating a question.
Yeah, so am I. Let's have a look. So I'm just trying to see which ones. Give me 15 seconds.
You take 15 seconds. I'll say something entertaining. My mind's gone blank. Luke. Yes, I did see it. Yes, I did see it.
Well, I got a question.
Go on, fire away, Ken.
Oh, I was just going to say, are you going to give us a demonstration?
Of magic? Yeah, I mean, I could, but let's pick a card. So, and here's the thing, right? So when you do magic, if you stare in the moment long enough, you can see I either bent space and time, or it's behind my hand, because it's the only place it can be. And I'm asking for a rational kind of look, and not taking it at face value, not just saying, okay, yeah, the card disappeared. But look at the moment, remember it, and actually analyze it. My psychic stuff, I refuse to do anymore because I gave somebody some truths about their life. It wasn't even advice. It was truth about their past that they didn't want public. And I was able to read it out of them, and I made them extremely upset. And I vowed never to do it again, and that's why I stopped, because it was irresponsible of me to do it. I wasn't charging. It was for entertainment purposes. But I just shouldn't have done it. There was a line and I stepped over it. I was only young, 19, 20. Apple, if you're listening, apologies. But yeah, so I don't do psychic readings anymore. But the magic, the mentalism I do is clearly magic. It's clearly entertainment. Clearly, David
stage magic.
Yeah. Stage or bar magic. I do a lot of, smoothini kind of bar magic, that kind of stuff. But again, it's more about the mechanics of it all. I prefer that. I like to know how things are done. That's why.
Awesome. I found the last question. It's for you. Ken. Do you view your psychic ability as an innate gift, or is it something that improves with practice? And do you think you should, if you are getting paid, be paid more than another psychic if you are objectively better?
Yeah, I don't charge for my services. On YouTube, I make my money through AdSense, so that means, like, you guys are probably familiar with what that is. That's like, what, $10 every year or something? Yeah. Because I only have like 3,000 subscribers, so I don't get that much money. Yeah. No, I work. That's how I make my money. I don't charge for any psychic services. I don't counsel people. I don't do any. All of my study is pretty much just for my own betterment of who I am and what I want to become, and that's what I study. Now, yes, I do believe that I have innate psychic abilities, which in the beginning, when I was younger, was a bit of a curse. I felt it was very difficult for me to deal with. Later on, I began to meditate and actually kind of just turn it off. And so that's what I do now. But it's for myself. I don't use it for anyone else. I don't charge people money for it or anything. I don't even know if I could profit from it somehow. I don't think I could. But I will see what I believe is maybe something that might happen in the future. But that's it.
I think on my channel, I've only got about 3 videos on my YouTube channel, but they're just me practicing magic tricks generally. And there's a one called Find the Lady, which paid for my smoking habit all the way through school. I did that. But I now sell that trick every Christmas for different charities. And I teach people magic for charities every Christmas. So if you want to learn it, just comment under my video and you'll find me.
I think both your channels are linked in the description. If not, I'll make sure they are later on. Guys, it is gone past 9 o'clock, and I forget Creaky's got his microphone back. So I'll pass Creaky on for this bit. Was he there?
Yeah, no, I am. Yeah, I was just trying to make you think I wasn't. Yeah, I've really enjoyed this one, guys. Sorry about my microphone breaking. I just turned it off and back on. Amazing. It fixed it. I thought I couldn't fix it without shutting the stream down, but clearly I was wrong. So thank you very much to Luke. Thank you very much to Ken. And thank you for handling the questions, Mr. Catz, while I had a sticky moment. I don't know what happened. I apologize, guys, but it is what it is. If you've seen me live stream before, you'd be surprised if there weren't any mistakes.
Thank you both for coming. I've really, really enjoyed that, and I was looking forward to this, and I've really enjoyed the conversation with both of you. And I would absolutely love to have either of you back on again. If you feel there's a different aspect to this you want to debate and you didn't get around to it, just let me know, because you're both in touch with me on Twitter or email, and just do that, and we can arrange that. Not a problem. If you go away and think, I wanted to talk about this, that, the other, we'll come back next time, make it a bit more specific. Absolutely. So thank you both very much.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, and Ken, for of reaching out to my call. I appreciate it. I'm always happy to come back. People can stomach me.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
very...
No, I think you were very. I'm sorry.
No. Sorry, Ken. You carry on.
No,
I was just gonna invite you both to shill yourselves out as much as you possibly can before we close the stream down. So tell people about your channels and where they can get in touch with you and so on and so forth.
Okay. I was just going to thank Luke. Thank you, Luke. You were a great debater. I feel that you were very respectful, and you also brought up a lot of really good points and also gave me some stuff to research. So I appreciate that. Yeah, so I sort of showed myself out earlier. I have a channel, Hellbound Heathen. I mostly do conspiracy stuff. I have a little bit of stuff about magic, but I kind of moved away from that because it's not something that I wanted to focus my attention on. I wanted to focus my attention on thank you, Luke, because around people practice witchcraft in the occult. And I also appreciate and do some videos on the history of magic and stuff about magic, but to focus my attention on people practice witchcraft in the occult. And that's it.
Fantastic. Right. Well, I will keep... Sorry.
So I just want to return that thanks very much. It's I was very worried that I would get some psychic fraud up here and I would get emotional and say discourteous things, but not been the case at all. So thank you very much for having me.
Well done both of you, and thank you everybody for watching, and I guess we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you so much.